accusation. They're throwing around the word treason.
I hate to say this, but President Barack Obama, there is now incontrovertible evidence that he was the spearhead of a seditious conspiracy to subvert the will of the American people and overthrow the United States government back in 2016.
They're saying that Obama knew that Russia did not meddle in the election, did not have any
Obama issued about 260 executive orders. He said, I have a phone and I have a pen, and I'm going to bypass Congress. Barack Obama deported more people than any other prior president. In 2016, Barack Obama bombed 7 different countries, 26,000 bombs. Again.
Picture a political mirage so flawless it convinced millions that charm was the same thing as competence. Now, imagine Joe Rogan and Victor Davis Hanson slicing it apart with a mix of razor-sharp logic and merciless humor. This isn't your average roast. It's a wrecking ball smashing through a carefully crafted myth. The golden boy of the media, the human TED Talk in a tailored suit, is about to have the mask ripped away, exposing the ego, the blunders, and the empire of empty speeches.
Obama did it, and it's disgusting. It's a disgusting lie. Let's play it.
Said that there were very fine people on both sides of a white supremacist rally.
You also had people that were very fine people on both sides. I'm not talking about the neo-Nazis and the white nationalists, because they should be condemned totally. But you had many people in that group other than neo-Nazis and white nationalists.
Okay? See, that's crazy. I have never seen that last part of it.
Because the news has said that lie over and over and over and over.
This Democratic Party is a Jacobin party, and they will not change their ideology or their agenda. It's run by the Obamas and the people in the Obama administration.
He promised hope and delivered hashtags. Barack Obama waltzed into politics like a celebrity cameo, mistaking the Constitution for a photo backdrop. By the time the red carpets were packed away and the speeches dissolved into dust, it was obvious. This wasn't a man leading a country. It was a man directing a vibe. Rogan and Hanson didn't even have to light the flamethrower. All they needed was a spotlight and the bloated archive of failed promises wrapped in poetic delivery.
I feel that they missed the boat and they were too compromised to be reelected or whatever. And Joe Biden is expendable. They don't care about Joe Biden. He's an empty vessel. And he's a very useful veneer to push this unpopular but revolutionary agenda forward and get it institutional.
Obama was the first president to treat governing like brand curation. Everything had to look sleek, sound inspiring, feel cinematic. It was image over impact, slogans over substance. He wasn't fixing the machinery. He was rebranding it with Spotify playlists and Instagram filters. Rogan nailed it. 8 years of floating through office like a motivational speaker who accidentally got his hands on drones and executive power.
To talk about the ongoing melodrama, what Barack Obama knew or did not know in his involvement with Russian collusion. There are 3 blind mice involved in this tale. John Brennan, the former CIA director, James Clapper, the former director of national intelligence, and James Comey, the former FBI director. And they all have new
Victor Davis Hanson, tired of the polite historian act, swung through Obama's legacy like a blade through mist. His foreign policy? Not diplomacy, but a traveling apology tour performed in world capitals while America's rivals munched popcorn. The global tour of self-deprecating speeches didn't win allies. It produced awkward applause and confusion. The Middle East looked like a botched lab experiment, and Obama treated it like a seminar in patience and reflection.
It's fun because things are actually happening. Very different than most of the time when people get elected.
And I will shut down the Federal Department of Education, and we will move everything back to the state.
Most of the time when people get elected, they claim all these things when they're running for president. Then they get into office and not much changes.
Individualize education and do it with the love for their children.
And in fact, a lot of what they campaigned on, they don't practice at all. Great example is the Obama administration. The Hope and Change website had to be changed because because there was a bunch of stuff in there about whistleblowers.
I don't think Mr. Snowden was a patriot. I called for a thorough review of our surveillance operations before Mr. Snowden made these leaks. My preference would have been for a lawful, orderly examination of these laws.
Protecting whistleblowers, which they didn't do at all. There was one of the worst administrations for whistleblowers.
And then there were the infamous red lines, drawn, erased, redrawn, then quietly ignored. Obama's threats carried the weight of a parent warning a toddler they'd count to 3 and stopping at 2 every single time. Rogue regimes took notes while he delivered lectures. Rogan loved the irony. A man capable of giving a masterclass on leadership who still needed a map to find decisive action. This wasn't courage. It was Broadway with nuclear weapons.
It's exactly what Biden did in 2020. He was in seclusion, and then he counted on this fusion media to fill in the blanks. He ran as a uniter. He said, let's stop the madness, the chaos. I'm good old Joe from Scranton. And to a lesser extent, the same extent Barack Obama did. He had hope and change. He has joy and vibes, but it was predicated on the same thing. The only thing I think she's going to be different is that, if you remember, Barack Obama at least had in his arsenal the unpopular Iraq.
Healthcare became his crown jewel, the Affordable Care Act. A masterpiece so brilliant it required flowcharts just to explain it. Instead of simplifying, he built a bureaucratic Rubik's Cube with hidden fees and backroom deals. Rogan exposed the bait and switch. Premium soared, coverage shrank, and Americans learned affordable meant financial ambush. His economic bragging was no better, like wrecking your car and asking for applause for calling a tow truck. Wages stagnated, jobs bled overseas, debt exploded. And race relations? He rode a wave of post-racial optimism into office and left the country more divided than a comment section on pineapple pizza.
Of backstabbing going on.
That's a very disrespectful attack on the American people who deserve the truth. They deserve to have faith and trust in the integrity of our democratic republic, which has been undermined by President Obama through his direction of this manufactured fake intelligence document, knowing that it was filled with lies.
Like when she got into office, you realize you're not really in control of everything. There's another person who's in control of each individual department, and they'll stop whatever you're trying to do every step of the way. They get in the way of everything.
Instead of unity, he served up lectures. Instead of healing, he delivered running commentary. Hanson summed it up. Symbolism without action is just theater. Obama was the star of the national stage show. Meanwhile, the surveillance state ballooned. The man who promised transparency left behind an Orwell-grade spy network. Journalists targeted. NSA powers expanded. Metadata gobbled up like snacks. Rogan joked that the only thing Obama didn't monitor was bathroom breaks. And the press? Completely smitten. Every scandal was softened. Every blunder repackaged. The IRS targeted political groups? A glitch. DOJ spying on reporters? Context. Hanson made it plain, Obama didn't challenge the media. He turned them into his personal entourage.
Look at the policies and the attacks on whistleblowers and drone strikes and all the other that happened during that administration, and the coup in Russia, and there's a lot that's, from a foreign policy perspective, very similar to what George Bush was doing. But what they were doing was highlighting social justice issues that came about during his administration, largely obscured the fact that the foreign policies were very similar to what...
Somehow, nothing was ever his fault. If something failed, Congress. If it broke, the system. If it blew up, history itself. He never ran out of excuses, just solutions. He could romanticize failure like it was an art form, narrating while the wheels came off the bus. Rogan spotted the magician's trick. Dazzle with rhetoric, hide the lack of results. Then there was Libya. Leading from behind became running from responsibility. Hanson laid it bare. His intervention created chaos under the guise of humanitarianism. Bomb, then bail. Leaving allies stranded and enemies emboldened. The Nobel Peace Prize came before the report card, and the rest was weapons deals, pallets of cash, and strategic patience, a policy built on wishful thinking and good headlines. Culturally, Obama treated fame like policy. Comedy bits, playlists, slow jamming the news. all while veterans languished in bureaucracy and city.
It's worse than Watergate because the President of the United States knew that he didn't have the intelligence to suggest that Donald Trump was a Russian asset. He thought that narrative would have worked in the election. It didn't. Donald Trump, I think, surprised to himself, was elected. So here you have a lame duck president trying to destroy the incoming president. He essentially did. There was no reason for Clapper or Brennan, or in the case of the FBI, tell Barack Obama there is signs of Russian collusion. He gave the game away. He was praising Barack Obama and said, you know, we would have never known about Russian collusion unless Barack Obama in that meeting, and he's referring to the December 9th meeting.
Hanson called it exactly what it was, distraction by charm. Instead of rolling up sleeves, he rolled out invitations to late-night shows. Selfie leadership. Legislation by hashtag. Even his signature speeches aged poorly. The cadence, the pauses, the charm, so predictable. Parody was pointless. Rogan skewered the emptiness. The man could speak for an hour, sound brilliant, and say absolutely nothing. It wasn't a talent. It was an avoidance tactic dressed in eloquence. His greatest trick wasn't governing. It was convincing millions that performance was leadership. And even now, he lingers, lecturing, meddling, fundraising, as if he never left office, just changed clothes. Hanson and Rogan stripped away the persona to reveal the ego of the most passive-aggressive administration in memory.
When they gave that speech, when he gave a speech on television, and everybody was like, fuck this. And then they were, it kind of just went away.
It was one of the most beautiful moments in modern American history. People really actually stood up, stopped a war from happening. I authorize armed forces of the United States in a limited military action in Libya in support of an international effort.
And then the memoirs, endless memoirs. Each chapter another ode to his own genius, his misunderstood greatness, his historic journey. Hanson mocked the audacity, rewriting history before the ink was dry, turning failures into footnotes and critics into the clueless. Reflection? No. Revision. Every platform he touches becomes another sermon from the mountaintop of missed opportunity. Even Democrats are worn out. The younger ones roll their eyes, the older ones whisper regrets. Yet he still sees himself as the blueprint, the gold standard. Rogan and Hanson agreed. His greatest legacy wasn't policy. It was a cult of personality that's aged into irrelevance in a custom suit. Education? Chicago? His own backyard suffered crime, crumbling schools, and pleading communities, and he gave speeches. Simple over service. Awareness over action.
Truthfulness. Let's start with John Brennan. The problem that Brennan has is that he went to a meeting and he presented a false picture of CIA assessments. The so-called CIA heads of various divisions found no Russian collusion. They said to John Brennan, there's nothing there that we can see that Donald Trump colluded with the Russians. He rejected that, cherry-picked 4 or 5 other analysts, and then presented a false picture to Barack Obama. Or did he?
Hanson called it poetic injustice, the so-called savior unable to save the city that birthed him. He'd show up, pose for photos, and vanish. The roast wasn't personal, it was myth-busting. They dragged the shining pedestal into daylight to reveal it was hollow. Behind the flawless diction, the manicured image, the historic aura, nothing. Because Obama won't fade away. The punchlines keep writing themselves, dressed up as tweets, appearances, and opinion pieces. The illusion cracks, but he keeps repainting it. And now, the once untouchable darling looks like the setup to a joke that's been told too many times. A gift-wrapped box stuffed with packing peanuts and a participation trophy.
The level of surveillance that this government is putting forward is insane.
It is crazy. And remember when Obama was confronted about it? He's like, it's just metadata.
Metadata.
No worries.
Yeah, it's fine. Just trust us.
Just metadata.
Yeah.
We're just collecting metadata. And Snowden's like, no. I was reading people's emails.
Right.
Yeah, we all read emails.
And there was some reporter, I forget her name, like they were deleted. She was on her computer and you could see the file being deleted right in front of her. She took a video with her camera. I think Ed Snowden should be allowed to walk free.
Rogan didn't even need to dig. All he had to do was note the hypocrisy. The man who warned against the cult of personality went and trademarked his own brand like a lifestyle label. Hanson, bored of fairy tales, tore through Obama's legacy, like a disillusioned professor. Strip away the magazine covers and breathless praise, and you're left with a presidency built on artfully staged indecision. He left the stage pretending the fire wasn't already raging. And just when you think he might own up, the myth frays like a designer suit in a downpour. As Rogan and Hanson keep peeling away the layers, what remains isn't greatness. It's branding, curated narratives, and a stitched-together record padded with silence.
I think we really got to see it until Trump ran.
The biggest scandal was when they spied on my campaign.
The whole system is so corrupted.
They spied on my campaign, they got caught. And then they went much further than that, and they got caught.
And it's so obvious, like we're at a stage, we have enough information to see.
They spied on my
Well,
campaign.
there's no real evidence of that.
Of course there is.
No.
All over the place.
Or
Leslie,
not.
they spied on my campaign.
Well, we can't verify that.
Totally verified.
No.
How much greed, money just corrupts the system.
And he's in the midst of a scandal.
He's not.
And of course he is.
No.
Leslie.
Come on.
Of course he is. And you will see that.